Under invertebrate phyla, I will talk about the general characteristic features of Annelida and the detailed study of Erythema posthuma. Both are important for MSET, APMT and even other exams also, AFMC, JIPMAR, CMC, KSET, Comet K, so on and so forth. Now, Annelida, general characters of Annelida, the most important points I will put before you. Annelida. The term Annelida was coined by Lamarck. The term Annelida was coined by Lamarck. Before Lamarck, all the annelids were placed under worms. They were placed under worms by Linnaeus. They were placed under worms by Linnaeus, and they were separated from worms by Cuvier. Separated from worms by Cuvier. Now, the annelids exhibit certain first formed characteristic features. The first formed characters of annelids are number 1, schizosylome. They are the first formed schizocoelomates, because before Annelida you have Nematoda, pseudocoelom. Before that you have Platyhelminthes, acoelom. So, among invertebrate phyla, annelids are the animals who have schizocoelom for the first time here now. Then, in them, dermomuscular body wall is present. Dermomuscular body wall is also noticed, with dermis and muscles are well developed, where the outer layer of the body wall is cuticle deposited with collagen and chitin. Outermost layer of the body wall is cuticle deposited with collagen and chitin. Below cuticle they have epidermis. Below epidermis they have got musculature, outer circular muscles and inner longitudinal muscles. Then below that there is a basement membrane here now. Okay. So, dermomuscular body wall is also noticed for the first time in Annelida, and annelids are the first animals to exhibit true metamerism. They are the first animals to exhibit true metamerism here now, where the growth zone is called pygidium. It lies towards the posterior end. The first formed segment lies at the anterior end, that is the oldest segment lies at the anterior end. Then the youngest segment lies before pygidium, and it is also called preanal segment. The youngest segment or newly formed segment is called preanal segment and lies before pygidium. Then after formation of the entire organism, the pygidium transforms into anal segment. So, preanal is the youngest, pygidium transforms into anal segment. They exhibit true metamerism with homonomous segmentation. Homonomous segmentation, where the segments are more or less identical here. Then Annelida, excretion takes place by nephridia. Excretion is by nephridia, which are ectodermal in origin. Ectodermal in origin. The chief function of nephridia is osmoregulation rather than excretion here now. Then annelids are the first animals to have closed blood vascular system. Closed blood vascular system. First phylum to have closed blood vascular system with hemoglobin dissolved in blood plasma. Due to the absence of RBCs, in all annelids, hemoglobin is dissolved in blood plasma. Then for the first time, a well-developed nervous system is also noticed. They have got a double ventral nerve cord, a solid double ventral nerve cord along the midventral side. Suprapharyngeal ganglions are there embedded in the groove of buccal cavity and pharynx. They correspond to brain, hence they are also called cerebral ganglions. They are connected to subpharyngeal ganglions by circumpharyngeal connectives. Then annelids locomotion takes place by parapodia, suckers and setae. Parapodia, suckers and setae. Fertilization may be external or internal. Sexes are separate or united, maybe with or without gonoducts. The characteristic larva of annelids is called trochophore. The characteristic larva of annelids is called trochophore here. Then annelida is divided into about four classes. Okay, class Polychaeta, class Oligochaeta, class Hirudinea, class Archaeannelida. Apart from that, Myxostomeria is also placed under Annelida. So altogether there are 5 classes under Annelida. Okay, to start with, Polychaeta. Polychaetes are commonly called bristleworms. Most are marine. A few are freshwater, like Glycera, Arenicola, are freshwater. Except these 2 are animals, rest of the polychaetes are marine. Then they have got a distinct head with 2 pairs of peristomial tentacles, 1 pair of prostomial palps, 1 pair of prostomial tentacles. Head is distinct. It comprises of peristomium and it bears 2 pairs of peristomial tentacles which are tactile in function, 1 pair of prostomial palps which are chemoreceptors, and 1 pair of prostomial tentacles are present which are tactile in function. Now in polychaetes clitellum is absent. Clitellum is absent. In polychaetes, locomotion takes place by parapodia and setae. Locomotion takes place by parapodia and setae. And most of them respire through the body wall. Even these parapodia also help in respiration. Parapodia are deposited with blood capillaries, so they also help in respiration besides the cutaneous, that is skin respiration or cutaneous respiration. And some of them have got gills also. Some of the polychaetes even respire through gills. Then the polychaetes are unisexual without gonoducts. They are unisexual without gonoducts. Fertilization is external. And in Polychaeta, the characteristic larva is called trochophore. Polychaeta is divided into 2 subclasses. Subclass Erantia, subclass Sedentaria. Subclass Erantia, subclass Sedentaria. Erantians are free-living worms and sometimes they live in temporary tube-like structures, whereas sedentarians live in permanent U-shaped tubes that are made in the sand. In Erantians, head is distinct. In sedentarians, head is indistinct. In Erantians, parapodia are well developed. Sedentaria, parapodia are poorly developed. And Erantians are mostly predaceous, whereas sedentarians are mostly detritivores. The examples for Erantia are Aphrodite, commonly called sea mouse, Polyno, commonly called scale worm, which is bioluminescent, Nereis, commonly called ragworm or sandworm or clamworm, Unis, Pacific pollaloworm, Glycera, smooth bloodworm. Ichthyotomus. So these are some of the important examples of Urantia. Aphrodite, commonly called sea mouse. Polyno, commonly called scale worm, which is bioluminescent. Nereis, commonly called clamworm or sandworm or ragworm. Unis, commonly called Pacific pollaloworm. Glycera, commonly called smooth bloodworm. And another example is Ichthyotomus. Then next you take sedentaria. As I said, sedentarians are sedentary. They live in permanent tubes. Head is indistinct. Parapodia are feeble, and parapodia are without acicula, and most of them are detritivores. Under sedentaria, you have got examples like Arenicola, commonly called lugworm or lobeworm. Number 2, Chaetopterus, paddleworm or glowworm. Chaetopterus is also bioluminescent. It is commonly called paddleworm or glowworm. Next you have Sabella, commonly called fanworm or peacock worm. Sabella, commonly called fanworm or peacock worm. Next you have Serpula, commonly called fanworm. Commonly called fanworm. Then next you have another example, Tomopterus. Tomopterus. So all these belong to sedentaria. Arenicola, commonly called lugworm or lobeworm. Chaetopterus, commonly called paddleworm or glowworm. Sabella, commonly called fanworm or peacock worm. Serpula, commonly called fanworm, and Tomopterus. So these are all examples for sedentaria, and these are examples for Urantia. Class Oligochaeta. Oligochaetes are, most of them are freshwater, and most of them live in moist soil. In Oligochaeta, parapodia are absent. Parapodia are absent. Locomotion takes place by setae, and head is indistinct in them. Head is indistinct. Unlike Polychaeta, when here head is indistinct without tentacles and palps. And in Oligochaetes, clitellum is permanent. Clitellum is permanent. Clitellum is permanent. And in Oligochaetes now, respiration is through body wall by diffusion process. Then Oligochaetes now, they are bisexual with gonoducts. Bisexual with gonoducts. Fertilization is external. Fertilization is external. Takes place in the cocoon. Fertilization is external, takes place in the cocoon here. Okay, without any larval stage. Development is direct without any larval stage here. Oligochaeta includes a single order, Terricola. Under Terricola, the examples are placed here now, like Megascoloides australis. Megascoloides australis is the largest annelid, happens to be the largest earthworm also. Rhinodrillus fafneri. Rhinodrillus fafneri is the second largest annelid. Then you have Tubifex, commonly called bloodworm, also belongs to this. Tubifex, bloodworm. Then Then you have earthworm examples like Peritima, Megascolex, Dravida. Dravida is the longest earthworm in India. Longest earthworm in India. Longest earthworm in India. And there are some oligochaetes which respire through gills now. Diro, Branchiura, and Branchiodrilus. Drio, Branchiura and Branchiodilus are the oligochaetes which respire through gills. Respire through gills. Okay. So the longest here now, Rhinodrilus faffineri second longest, Megascolidus australis the longest. They belong to Terricola here now. Apart from all the earthworms also belong to Terricola here now. European earthworm called Lumbricus also belongs to order Terricola of class Oligochaeta. And remember the most important point here now, Serpula and Sabella of Polychaeta are with chlorocroarin or with a respiratory pigment called chlorocroarin, which is green in color. Serpula and Sabella of Polychaeta, class Polychaeta, and the subclass Sedentaria. So they are with chlorocroanin, which is green in color. Now you have now class Hirudinea. Class Hirudinea includes leeches, where most of them are carnivorous and a few of them are sanguivorous, Now in leeches, Parapodia and Setae are absent. Parapodia and Setae are absent. Locomotion takes place by suckers. Locomotion by suckers. Locomotion takes place by oral sucker and ventral sucker. Then in Hirudinea, clitellum is temporary. Clitellum is temporary, appears only during breeding season from 9th to 11th segments. It is between 9th and 11th segment, appears only during breeding season. It is temporary structure, unlike oligochaetes, where the clitellum is permanent here. Then in Hirudinians, external segmentation is distinct. External segmentation is distinct. Internal segmentation is obliterated. Internal segmentation is obliterated by botryoidal tissue. Botryoidal tissue. Internal segmentation is obliterated by botryoidal tissue, which is supposed to be excretory in function. Excretory in function, which is mostly excretory in function. Apart from that, it also stores iron, copper, ions, and also helps in revascularization. Helps in revascularization. So botryoidal tissue is basically excretory in function. Besides that, it also helps in storing copper, iron, ions, and also helps in revascularization. Now, Hirudinians are sanguivorous and they secrete an anticoagulant. Called hirudin. They secrete an anticoagulant called hirudin. Then Hirudinians are bisexual, and it is the only group of Annelida where the fertilization is internal. Fertilization is internal. They have got an intromittent organ. With the help of intromittent organ, they inject the sperms below skin. A hypodermic insemination is noticed. Hypodermic insemination of sperms takes place by means of an intermittent organ in leeches. So it's the only group of Annelida where the fertilization is internal here now. Then they store blood in crop chambers. Blood is stored in crop chambers, Then, the olden days, leeches were used for removal of impure blood by quacks, The phenomena of removing of impure blood by employing leeches is called phlebotomy. So they were used for a technique called phlebotomy in the olden days, where the impure blood was removed from the infected part by employing leeches, which is called phlebotomy. Presence of definite number of segments is one of the unique features of Hirudinians. When you take any Hirudinian, they have got 33 segments. 33 segments. So, presence of definite number of segments in the body is one of the unique features of Hirudinians. They have got 33 segments and about 109 annuli. Each segment is further divided into subsegments called annuli. So, in Hirudinaria granulosa, about 109 annuli are present, and number of segments is constant in all leeches. They have got 33 segments. Then I shall give some examples now for Hirudinia. We have Acanthoptella. It is a leech with Acanthoptella is a leech with setae, and it is considered to be connecting link between Hirudinia and Polychaeta oligochaeta. Okay, connecting link between Hirudinia and Polychaeta oligochaeta. Acanthoptella. Then Pontoptella is commonly called skate sucker. Skate sucker, and it is a leech with perivisceral coelom. It is a leech with perivisceral coelom. Because in other leeches, coelom is replaced by botryoidal tissue. So the leech with perivisceral coelom is Pontoptella. It is also called skate sucker, sucks the blood of cartilage fish called skates. Then next you have another example, Erpoptella, Glossophiana. These are freshwater leeches. Both of them are referred to as freshwater leeches. Osobranchus is a leech that respires through gills. Osobranchus is a leech that respires through gills. Then you have Hirudo medicinalis, commonly called medicinal leech. Then you have Hirudinaria granulosa, commonly called Indian cattle leech. Then you can have another example, Haemophis, commonly called horse leech. Hemodipsa is commonly called land leech. So these are the most important examples of Hirudinia. I repeat, Acanthoptella, it's a leech with setae, connecting link between Polychaeta, oligochaeta and Hirudinia. Pontoptella, commonly called skate sucker. Erpoptella, Glossophiana are freshwater leeches. Osobranchus is a leech with gills. Hirudo medicinalis, commonly called medicinal leech. Hirudinaria granulosa, commonly called Indian cattle leech. Haemophis, commonly called horse leech. Hemodipsa is commonly called land leech. Next class Archaeannelida. As the name itself indicates, Archaeannelids are the most primitive annelids. Most primitive annelids now. In archaeannelids now, Setae, Parapodia and suckers are absent. Setae, Parapodia and suckers are absent. And in archaeannelids, head is distinct with tentacles. Head is distinct with a pair of tentacles. Archaeannelids now, just like cnidarians, subepidermal nerve plexus is present. Subepidermal nerve plexus is present. Subepidermal nerve plexus is present. And in archaeannelids now, they are unisexual. Okay, most of them are unisexual, a few are bisexual. And they have got a characteristic larva called lovens. Lovens is the characteristic larva of archaeannelids. Unlike Hirudinians, in archaeannelids now, coelom is spacious. Coelom is spacious. Coelom is spacious. Okay. Then the examples are Protodrillus. Protodrillus, okay, is one example for archaeannelida here. The most primitive annelids. They are the primitive annelids here now. Setae, Parapodia and suckers are absent here now. Head is distinct with a pair of tentacles in them. Subepidermal nerve plexus is present. Unisexual and a few are bisexual. They got a characteristic larva called lovens here now. Then coelom is spacious. The examples are Protodrillus. The most important example is Protodrillus. Myxostomeria. Myxostomerians are referred to as doubtful annelids. They are parasitic on crinoids. They got 5 pairs of parapodia and 4 pairs of suckers. 5 pairs of parapodia and 4 pairs of suckers. And in Myxostomerians, blood vascular, respiratory and excretory systems are absent because of a parasitic life here now. Blood vascular, respiratory and excretory systems are absent. Then the examples are Myxostoma cubanum, and Myxostoma glabrum. Myxostoma cubanum and Myxostoma glabrum are the examples of class Myxostomeria. Now we will talk about certain important characteristics of Pheretima posthuma. Pheretima posthuma, certain important characteristics which are important MCET point of view, AAPMT point of view, even AFMC, JIPMER and all I will put before you. Now it belongs to class Oligochaeta and order Terricola. Which is also called Opisthophora. As I made a mention earlier, the longest earthworm is Megascoloides australis. The smallest annelid, you would say. The smallest annelid is Ketogaster and Elosoma. Both of them are the smallest annelids. They belong to class Polychaeta. The longest is Megascoloides australis, that belongs to class Oligochaeta. Now, the earthworms which live in South India are Ferritima, Megascolex, Dravida, Lampito. So all these earthworms live in South India. Among these, Dravida is the longest earthworm in India. The North Indian earthworms are Ellolobophora, which is bioluminescent, Ferritima, and Eutyphus. So all these three are North Indian earthworms now. So this Ferritima has to be deleted from here. This Ferritima, which I made a mention earlier, South Indian, it is not a South Indian, it is found in North India. So Ellolobophora, Ferritima and Eutyphus are the North Indian earthworms. Megascolex, Dravida, Lampito and Octochetus. Another example you can write here. Octochetus. Repeat. South Indian earthworms are Megascolex, Dravida, Lampito and Octochetus. The North Indian earthworms are Ellolobophora, Ferritima and Eutyphus. Among these, Ellolobophora is bioluminescent.